In the secluded outskirts of Redwood Falls, Chris Jason Hemsworth lives a quiet life as a carpenter, raising his young son Timothy Hemsworth alone after the loss of his wife to cancer. The town knows him as calm, private, deliberate, a man who keeps to himself. What no one sees is the weight behind his eyes. A past as a covert special forces operative under a private military contractor known for missions so dark they lived off the record. He traded that world for peace, for fatherhood, for safety. The only thing that matters now is being both mom and dad, protector and provider. Chris believes he's outrun his past, but the past is already on its way back. One cold morning on Clearwater Lake, Chris teaches Timothy how to bait a fishing hook. Laughter is the only sound until a scream of engines cuts the stillness. A private jet spirals overhead, engine fire staining the sky. Chris's instincts take over before he can think. He orders his son to stay in the boat and calls 911. Then he dives into the freezing lake, battling numbing water to reach the sinking aircraft. Inside is Angelina Cassandra Jolie, the world-famous billionaire CEO of a global defense tech empire. Bruised, unconscious, and moments from death, Chris smashes the cockpit glass and pulls her to the surface, carrying her to shore, saving her life. The rescue became national news. Angelina, grateful and emotional, tells every network she wants to find the man who saved her. He's a hero, she says. But Chris knows attention is the enemy. Cameras reveal his face. Old military contacts see him, and one of them should not be alive. At first, it's whispers online, then reporters on his street, then a familiar coldness in his bones. Chris senses the storm before it hits. He begs Angelina to let the story fade, but her gratitude, her need to repay him, unknowingly puts a target right over the life he rebuilt. 3 days later, just after midnight, a car parks outside Chris's cabin. Matthew Kia McConaughey, the man Chris once defied and believed dead, steps out. Calm, casual, terrifying. He was Chris's commander in their old unit and now the head of the same contractor group. A shadow army of private soldiers with no laws and no borders. Matthew knows about Timothy. He knows about the files Chris stole, files proving war crimes that could dismantle the entire organization. He gives Chris 3 days to return them. Otherwise, Timothy disappears. Not forever, just long enough to break him. Desperate but focused, Chris swallows his pride and calls Angelina. He explains everything. The mercenary past, the betrayal, the stolen evidence, and the new threat. Instead of fear, she responds with a steel-edged determination. She arrives with private security, tactical resources, and something Chris lost, certainty. Together, they relocate Timothy to a secure estate hidden behind private protection. Chris promises his son he'll return. The boy asks if the bad guys are coming. Chris lies, because it's what a father must do when the truth is unbearable. Angelina brings in Regina Emma King, a federal agent specializing in domestic paramilitary groups. She believes Chris can provide enough testimony and evidence to dismantle Matthew's organization forever. The plan: Chris pretends to hand over the files, drawing Matthew into a controlled environment where FBI tactical teams are waiting. It's risk stacked on risk. Regina warns, if he senses a trap for even a second, he'll kill you before anyone moves. Chris understands. He's been trained the same way. But this isn't about winning. This is about a father getting his child back, or dying trying. The exchange happens in an abandoned Seattle waterfront warehouse under the glow of a single overhead bulb. Matthew arrives alone, arrogance disguised as confidence. Chris hands him a decoy flash drive. Matthew checks it, realizes it's fake, and pulls a gun. Chris doesn't flinch. He tells Matthew that Timothy is safe, guarded by people stronger than his contractors. Their eyes lock. Two ghosts staring across the line that turned one into a monster and the other into a father. Just as Matthew prepares to pull the trigger, the warehouse erupts with FBI teams. Gunfire cracks. Matthew is taken alive. With Matthew captured, legal storms unfold. Trials, hearings, political explosions. Chris testifies for 6 hours. The files he provides dismantle the shadow network of mercenaries and executives behind it. Matthew receives a long federal sentence. Chris should feel relief, but instead, he feels hollow. Peace isn't victory. Peace is what comes after you survive yourself. And survival is something Chris is still learning how to do. Under witness protection, Chris and Timothy move to Hollow Brook, Vermont, under new identities. They rebuild. Slowly. They fish again. Laugh again. Sleep through the night again. Trauma aches, but fades. Angelina visits. Not to intrude, but to remind them they are not alone. They become something like family, a chosen one. After the trials end, Regina informs Chris he can choose. Keep his new identity or reclaim his old one. At the same time, Angelina calls with an offer. Head of global security for her corporation, legitimate work, good pay, safety, purpose. The chance to protect without destroying. The chance to be more than who he was. Chris accepts, but keeps the new name. The man he used to be can stay buried. Chris, Timothy, and Angelina sit around a small kitchen table one evening eating takeout and laughing. Something simple, something normal. Chris looks at his son's face, peaceful, unburdened, and realizes this is the real ending. Not the bullets, not the trials. This moment, this quiet, this love. The ghosts are still there. They always will be. But Chris now knows something he didn't before. You don't escape your past. You build a life strong enough to stand beside it. And he has.